We'll call the meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, be with us this evening as we do the business for the city and the community and the good and welfare. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Yeah.
This is item C, approval of agenda.
Move to approve the agenda for November 13, 2023.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. This is item D, this is citizens' comments. So at this point, we would allow citizens to comment on anything that they want to comment on. We would require them to be 3 minutes and no more. Each guest is welcome to comment, but they must state their first and last name and where they reside. Please sign the sign-in sheet here. Mr. Chair, at this point, if you want to, you can open up citizens' comments.
We'll open up citizens' comments.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any time? Feel free.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Melanie Silver, and I am here tonight regarding the rezoning of 321 North Pine to R2. I'm here representing my sister Melissa Silver, which she has been, I think, before you before. Unfortunately, she was unable to make the meeting tonight, and she asked me to stand in her place. So yes, I'm a little nervous about this. not used to standing in front of this many people. I've provided you with several items. First is a picture of the empty lot taken from the street so you can get a good visual of how small that lot really is. There's also pictures of a plot plan for the duplex. There's several pictures of other duplexes that have been built by this developer which show a parking dilemma, which we'll discuss later. Lastly is a copy of her wildlife habitat certificate. We're hoping that you all have had a chance to drive by the property. If you will remember, many of you stated in previous discussions that the lot was very small. As you can see from the picture of the lot, you are correct. It is very small. Each side of the duplex will have a single-car garage. I provided the pictures of the other duplexes, which, if you'll see, are actually homes with double-car garages, to highlight the potential impact of putting a duplex on this lot. We already have an issue with children having to walk in the middle of the street when they go to school because of the number of cars parked on the street. Many folks also have to walk in the middle of the street to get down to the park. Our main concern with rezoning this lot is that the chances are very good that building a duplex here would only exacerbate this issue and put the safety of these families walking in the street at further risk. Another concern along these lines is the homes in this neighborhood are older, well-kept, with lots of space between them. The homeowners take pride in their homes and the property, and they keep it up very well. While rezoning the lot would allow it to be built only 6 feet from the neighboring lot lines, it would look totally out of place and would certainly disrupt the aesthetics of this beautiful neighborhood. It would also be inconsistent, we feel, with the current vision and plans for the revitalization of the downtown and surrounding neighborhoods. This close proximity ties into another concern.
All right, it's been 3 minutes. Do you have a closing statement?
Yeah, the wildlife preserve that she has taken a lot of time and trouble to build in her yard would probably go to heck. And as a result, we are respectfully asking that you take all of this into consideration, keeping in mind that the city council voted against rezoning the lot earlier this year and reject the rezoning of 321 North Pine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to take too much
Thank you very
time.
much. Jen.
Yep.
Appreciate it very much. Anybody else this time? Come on up.
My name is Denise Hike. My address is 2300 Leo Street. And I'm here to talk about the 321 North Pine rezoning also. My son was surprised to see notification for that skinny lot to be duplexes again. One of the slides that you'll be seeing later today is that the renters are taking the current single-family homes to rent because we didn't have enough duplexes or apartments. This might be true in some cases, but like my daughter's friends, they are tired of apartment life and want to buy in Goddard. Since they can't afford the houses that are currently here, they decided to rent a house in Goddard. Not because of the lack of apartments or duplexes, but because of wanting to live in a house. If there are more affordable houses for first-time home buyers, it would ease up on rental homes. Building a small family home in 321 North Pine would sell really fast. Please consider changing the guidelines so a single-family home could be built here. A growing family would love to own a home so close to school and Main Street. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anybody else at this time? Seeing none, Mr. Chair, if you want, you can close citizens' comments.
This time we will close citizens' comments.
Thank you very much. This is item E, approval of the minutes. So this is to approve the minutes from October 9th, 2023. As a reminder, we had a lot split, case number SPLT 2305, and the Goddard City Center Second Edition pre-plat.
I'll make a motion to approve the planning commission reading the minutes from October 9th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. This is item F, Board of Zoning Appeals. This is F1, 321 North Pine rezoning, case number zone-23-4. As a quick background, we'll go through all the criteria. You guys have seen rezonings before. We have to go through what's called the golden rules per the state law case of Arthur Golden versus City of Overland Park. We'll go through that criteria, the statements by myself, being city staff, and then the chair, if you want, you'll be able to open up a public hearing, at which point anybody who wants to comment during that time can come up and comment. After comments have been received and filed, then you can close the public hearing and deliberate accordingly, and you won't receive any more comments from the public at that point. So we will go through the background and the golden rules as mentioned, but Kirk Richards has submitted an application for rezoning one lot located on Pine Street with the address of 321 North Pine. A previous zoning case came up before the Board of Zoning Appeals on January 9, 2023 and was tabled due to concerns about the lot size. The case was picked up again on February 13, 2023, and after some consideration was approved by the Planning Commission 6-1. The case went to the City Council on March 6 of 2023 and was denied due to concerns about the location of the rezoning and the size of the lot. Public hearing will have to be called in order to review after the golden rules. The land is currently zoned R1 single-family residential and is around 0.16 acres. Developer would like to build a duplex on the lot and wants to rezone it to R2, two-family residential. The lot is currently vacant. Final consideration for the rezoning will be before the City Council. So these are the golden rules. This comes out of Article 13 Amendment, Section 100.H.1-17. You guys have seen this before. Feel free to stop me at any time. What are the existing uses and their character and condition on the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? So the subject property is classified as residential, highest and best use. It is currently vacant. Land use to the east is single-family residence detached. To the south, the land use is single-family residence detached. To the west, the land use is single-family residence detached. To the north, the land use is single-family residence detached. What is the current zoning of the subject property and that of the surrounding neighborhood in relation to the request? The land is currently zoned R1 single-family residential. To the east, the zoning is R1 single-family residential. To the south, the zoning is R1 single-family residential. To the west, the zoning is R1 single-family residential. To the north, the land is R1 single-family residential. Is the length of time the subject property has remained undeveloped vacant as known factor into consideration? So yes, building permits for new construction tend to follow new developments. Areas of older housing stocks tend to not have as many economic growth without incentives. And we know with an R1 zoning classification, the minimum lot size for a single family detached is 60 by 100, and this lot is 50 by 100. Would the request correct an error in the application of these regulations? So no. Is the request caused by change or changing conditions in the area of the subject property, and if so, what is the nature and significance of such change or changing conditions? So the city of Goddard is experiencing significant residential growth and demand for additional housing of all types. Do adequate housing, sewer disposal, and water supply and other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist or can they be provided to serve the areas that would be permitted in the subject property? So yes, sewer and water and street are all readily available. If we already have streets in the front and we have water in the front and then sewer in the alley. Would the subject property need to be platted or replatted or new dedications made for right-of-way easement and access control or building setback lines? So no, land is already platted and the water is in the city right-of-way by the street and the sewer is in the city right-of-way by the alley, as previously mentioned. Would a screening plan be necessary for existing or potential uses of subject property? So no, screening is required for multifamily or commercial. Multifamily is considered 3 units or greater, or as Article 2.102 dwelling multifamily. Residential building containing 3 or more dwelling units is suitable vacant land or buildings available or not available for development that currently has the same zoning as is requested. The zoning for R2 accounts for about 293 acres, including proposed zoning cases, which is about 15% of the residential zone land. If the request is for business or industrial uses, are such uses needed to provide more services or employment opportunities? It does not apply. This is a residential request, not a commercial one. Is the subject property suitable for the uses in the current zoning to which it has been restricted? Yes, R1 allows for duplexes as a conditional use. Conditional uses are acceptable uses with conditions upon them. To what extent would a removal of restrictions, i.e. the approval of the zoning request detrimentally affect other properties in the neighborhood? So this question is obviously open-ended. The question would be, is it going to impact commercial, is it going to impact appraised values? So we did a general regression analysis, was done with properties within 1,000 feet of duplexes. You guys saw this last time in January 2023. So we did a regression analysis, 1,000 feet of duplex, to determine if the proximity duplexes affected the value. The study was done on a sample size of 375 properties within Goddard. The results show that it was statistically insignificant, meaning that the proximity to a duplex did not significantly impact the appraised value, either in the positive or the negative for the single-family detached housing. The significance value of F equals 0.18. That basically just means that with a significance of 0.05, it would have to be equal or less than that. And it's greater than that, which means it's statistically insignificant. And the multiplier effect of multiple R squared at 0.068 means that there's a high variability, which means that it's not being impacted directly by the proximity to a duplex. Would the request be consistent with the purpose of zoning district classification and intent and purpose of these regulations? So R2, two-family residential district. The district is established to prevent medium-density two-family dwelling units with public sewage and water supply and to allow certain community facilities. Is not intended generally for single-family residential use, except as incidentals in the area. Staff believes this to be in conformance with zoning district purpose. Article 1.101 purpose. These regulations are intended to serve the following as outlined, A through K, and staff believes that this development is in conformance with intent and purposes of the general intent and purposes of the subdivision regulations. Is the request in conformance with the comprehensive plan? Is it further enhance the implementation of the plan? So page 16 of the comprehensive plan states as a goal, promote continued residential development to enlarge the tax base and strengthen municipal capacity to provide quality public facilities. Page 17 of the comprehensive plan outlines housing objectives that include provide for multifamily dwellings, retirement housing, and other specialized housing as required to meet the needs of defined user groups within the community. Page 60 of the comprehensive plan shows future land use map of this area as residential. What is the nature of support of opposition to the request? So general support comes in the desire to increase the tax base for the city as well as diversify the housing stock. General opposition comes in the desire for the city to stay relatively and change its land use composition of single-family detached housing. Is there any information or are there recommendations on this request available from professional persons or persons with related expertise which would be helpful in this evaluation? So providing rental properties, and this is just something that's been discussed sort of as a standard practice for planning, but providing rental properties in the traditional form avoids the need for renters to rent single-family detached homes, which are typically considered owner-occupied. Prohibiting renter-occupied dwelling units causes renters to look into renting single-family detached homes as its only rental option available. This causes people to actively look for homeownership to compete with speculators of single-family detached housing homes. This drives up the demand for single-family detached home values, which in turn makes a single-family home more desirable for real estate speculation as an investment opportunity. This causes wars between potential homeowners and real estate speculators, further driving up the value of homes. This continued real estate speculation pushes homes out of the goods market into the asset market, causing a housing bubble which is prone to higher levels of volatility and crashes. And so we're looking at this trend line over here of owner-occupied, single-family detached versus renter-occupied, and what we're trying to see is trying to prevent this one from being an inverted basically where you would have more renter occupied, single family detached versus owner occupied. By comparison, does the relative gain to the public health, safety, or general welfare outweigh the loss in property value or the hardship imposed upon the applicant by not approving the request? So the development is for residential use and does not pose a serious threat to health, safety, or welfare by its use. This is not an industrial use or commercial use. It's still residential within a residential zoning classification. So over here, what you're looking at is homes built by year. And this lot over here is just a blow-up view of the house, of the lot in question. As mentioned before, 1/4 of all the homes in this area is already renter occupied. We do have mobile homes right over here. A lot of the homes over in this area are of our older housing quality, older housing stock, which is traditional when you consider that the nexus of where Goddard started was Main Street in Santa Fe. That's our nexus of growth. These are images which you have seen from the last time we went through the rezoning request. The plot plan, as mentioned, is 50 by this is 140, so they are meeting the minimum setback requirements. This is a general concept layout. Financially, there is a small cost of publication as required. Legally, it's approved as a form. It is recommended the Planning Commission approve the rezoning request case number zone-23-4, and we do have a developer here to answer any questions if the Planning Commission wishes to ask them. At which point, we would need to now go into the public hearing. So, Mr. Chair, if you would like, you can open the public hearing.
Okay, cool. Now open the public hearing.
Very good. Anyone at this point may step up. Once again, you state your first and last name, where you live, and you're welcome to speak during this public hearing. Feel free at this time. If not, then they can always close the public hearing. You're welcome to come back.
Okay, I didn't know if you guys wanted to ask me some questions furthermore on this.
You want the pointer?
Oh, you maybe switch it to the, yeah, that's probably all we need. I just want to be able to answer any questions you guys might have. I do want to just bring it to your attention, the 6-foot setback is correct on the lot. Whatever you build, you have that 6-foot setback. Also, 2 cars per dwelling is code. I'll have 3 parking spots per side, 1 in the garage and 2 in the driveway. So just wanted to answer that question. And then also 5 years ago, I built one exactly like this at 401 Craig. Were any of you guys able to go by and take a look at that? So it was approved 5 years ago, which is doing really well. I'm doing a lot of inner city fill-in with the city of Wichita. I'm doing the Trails End development here in Goddard. And while I'll be here for the next couple of years, I was going to focus on some inner city fill-in for affordable rents. If you do look, like I looked up on Zillow and Realtor.com, there's only 4 units for rent, 2 mobile homes that are under $1,000. And 1 single family house at $2,250 and another single family house at $3,000. A unit like this, I rent for about $1,000 a side. We can split them and sell them off as twin homes, which is another affordable housing that we can do in the future as well. So, do you guys have any other questions or anything I can ease your mind on?
You'd be able to split these off and sell it as a twin home. The lot would have to be split.
In Wichita, if we put a separate sewer in each one, and I mean, would we have to do a lot split?
Yeah, to sell
Okay.
as a twin home, we'd have to do a lot split. In which, I don't know if we'd be able to do a lot split.
Oh, okay.
That's a separate question.
Okay, I maybe spoke out of terms in that. So in Wichita, we're selling halves, for more affordable. But I was kind of hoping. I know the commission's passed it this last 3 times, and once at 401 Craig and last time. So I was kind of hoping to give you guys an opportunity to go to 401 Craig and see how that was doing. The value, tax value is $250,000. So what I've seen doing the inner city fill-in is when you build something new, I mean, it is going to increase the value of the houses around it. And it's really kind of nice to watch when I'm building, you know, when we're painting and building new concrete and all this stuff, you know, a lot of the houses around in the neighborhood, a lot of people, you'll see them come out, paint their house, you know, fix their deck, you know, and I think it's really good for the, you know, the economy and the community. So, anything else I could
Does it
answer
have
for you guys?
basement?
What's that?
Basement?
No, there'll be a slab. Yeah.
Have you seen that room in for?
No, I don't have any cement room or anything like that.
Just curious.
So, yeah, we're out in Trails End. We're doing some of them with the cement, and we're doing a storm shelter underneath the pool house for some extra safety. So,
The property you built like this on Craig, what's the lot size there?
same exact size. So that's kind of what I was trying to get you guys to go back there. It's the 50 foot. I mean, I'm not asking for any, you know, extra easements or anything. We fit it on there. It's, yeah, real nice. And turned out well, always rented. And actually, that's actually a, you know, a higher valuation neighborhood that I built that in. You know, this is, you know, and you guys allowed that, and this is kind of a little bit lower. So we're kind of hoping to spruce it up over there.
No, I don't have any questions.
No.
Okay. All right, if anything else comes up, let me know.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is anybody else at this time to speak during the public hearing?
Can I ask you a question?
No, you can direct the question to the planning commission.
Okay. Don't know how to do this. I guess my question, from everything I've been told, is that with the distance here is 50 foot, by the time you get a 2-car garage built in there and then spaces for each of the cars for the single car garage, that there would not be room to have an additional cutout to let that third car park in that lot. So it wouldn't be 3 cars that would be able to park there, it would be 2 cars, one in the garage and one in the driveway. That's what I've been told based on the sizes and looking at that lot. Just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, do you mind if I respond to that? I mean,
Yeah, that's understandable, and yeah, and the way it's drawn there, that's correct. But actually, when we do the sidewalks, we'll have sidewalks 4 foot off the side of the house, and then where the entry is, it's gonna come straight down. So actually, on the site plan, it doesn't show that you're gonna have an extra, you know, 6 foot on each side coming down, and so that is a little deceiving. And then I also had a picture of the house on 401 Craig, if you guys would like to take a look at that and see how that turned out.
I've got it here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, just offer.
The Google map is a great picture, so.
Yeah, it really does.
Anybody else at this time want to speak? Public hearing? Mr. Chair, at this time, you can close the public hearing and deliberate amongst yourselves.
This time we will close the public hearing.
Did you see that picture, Justin? Did you pull it up at Google Maps?
No, I haven't either.
Let's see here. We got it. Oh, I got it. Thank you.
Discussion? I don't have any questions.
No, I don't have
Well, that's right, you know, when you look at the other one, that house next to it is the problem. I mean, it's the exact same lot that he's. Let's see, this house, I mean, assuming those are property lines. That's the one causing the congestion. Yeah, so it's
Side of the road.
one or the other, sure. On a corner, yeah, it was on the end, and the lot next to it, looks like farmland.
Doesn't matter whether it's approved or not, it's if it's sidewalk. Approved foot traffic for pedestrians, period.
So it's the corner. It's the corner, have extra long driveway, and this is just. But again, I mean, that's the closeness of that.
But it meets the parameters for setbacks, it's just.
It does.
It's putting on a 50 lot in R2, so.
And no one's gonna build a single family with setbacks, and I mean, at least not currently.
Not the cost of materials versus.
Right, not currently. I mean, if,
The short of one of the neighbors buying it, but a garage up or just leaving it blank, it's almost useless, you know. I would say useless, put a single family on it, but this is not technically feasible. It's a single family house.
Or that similar side, the single families right there. They're probably on the street, similar size. Single family.
maybe we can,
You want it to be,
I'm sure it'd be over 60-foot line. Anything, Justin?
See any problem with
meets parameters. Yes, and that would be at the city council.
Just to be clear, Rocky, you said the single family minimum lot size is
60 by 100.
60 by 100.
Yeah, this is something we discussed with the overlay district, which we'll talk about with item H.2, and we'll go into more details, but once upon a time, houses were smaller and lots were smaller. And so
Right.
as the city grew, we adopted more and more regulations, and the regulations started dictating what was considered an acceptable lot size. It used to be 75 by 100, and then in 2019, we amended it to be 60 by 100. It didn't take into account obviously smaller lots, but 50 by 100 would not be considered acceptable as a single family, meaning that, and it's a little bit confusing because it's come up before, but basically, I keep giving this analogy, and whether or not it's a good analogy or not, you feel free to critique it, but you can drive a car, practically speaking, if it's got an engine and wheels and it's got gas in it, you can drive the car. Technically, you can't drive without a driver's license. You could technically build a house on that lot, but practically speaking, you build a house on a lot, but technically we wouldn't allow you, we wouldn't issue you a building permit because it's non-conforming, if that makes sense. Rezoning it makes it conforming. So he could build in an R2, he could build single family or two family, but obviously in areas where there's a lower, where the housing stock is older, typically, and this is something that we've seen and discussed, it's considered urban renewal, you're gonna see cities tending to try to incentivize the private sector to build in areas that are considered economically declined, and so that's kind of why you're seeing these situations come up. So there is obviously the possibility of rezoning where you could put a single family there, but why would you want to, considering that with a duplex you could generate more revenue and it would help, for that purposes. So that's why. So like I said, technically we would allow them, but practically speaking you could. I mean, you could build a house on 25 by 100, but we would not allow you to do that.
Still see what issue.
No more discussion, I guess we're looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve the rezoning request for zone 23-4.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Yep.
Nay.
I'm just gonna go no on that one.
Okay.
Would like to see the city council, if it's approved, look at putting the sidewalk in.
Sidewalk? Thank you very much. Motion passes 5-1. At this point, you're welcome to stay the rest of the night or not. Have a good night. This is item F.2. This is a variance for the setback requirements. This is case number VAR 23-2. Quick background, Brandon Salisbury has submitted a setback variance application on behalf of developers Kirk Richard and Brian McGauley for the Gotto Trails and Development. The request will be for lots 4 and 7 of block 3 in the development to reduce the setbacks in the front from 25 to 20 to allow for larger backyards. A variance request must follow one of the following approved types. The variance requests are approved by the Planning Commission under the City of Gotto subdivision regulations. Anyone aggrieved by the decision of the Planning Commission must appeal to the district court, and this is confirmed by the city attorney. So these are the acceptable variances under Article 10, 107.c. You can either vary the applicable minimum lot area, lot width, and lot depth. You can vary the applicable bulk regulations, including maximum height and lot coverage and minimum yard requirements, which is what we're choosing to do today. You can vary the dimensions provisions for permitted obstructions and required yards, including fences, 3-103F. You can vary applicable number of required off-street parking, etc., and you can read the rest. But we are looking at to vary the applicable bulk regulations. The board may grant a variance upon specific writings of findings of fact based upon particular evidence presented to it in the hearing that all conditions required by KSA 12759E have been met, which are listed below. And we'll go over KSA 12759. But in speaking with the city attorney, he listed that as 12759E is for guidance and does not need to be met in order to grant a variance, which can seem conflicting here because when we look at this and somebody submits a variance, if it doesn't meet one of these requirements, it seems like it's a no-go from the start. The city attorney said that's not necessarily the case. They're supposed to be designed as guidelines. So that being said, when we go through these requirements, they don't all have to be met. This is simply a requirement for considering the variance request, at which point the Planning Commission is completely open to you if you guys want to approve it or not. So at this point, the variance request arises from such condition which is unique to the property in question, which is not ordinarily found in the same zoning district and is not created by the action or actions of the property owner or the applicant. So it is definitely not unique in question. So that's why right away you're seeing that number one, it's not unique. So does that mean it's conflicting with KSA? And the city attorney is saying that's just something that can be taken into consideration. No actions have been taken by the developer at this time. That granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of the adjacent property owners and residents. So there's no adverse impacts to the adjacent property owners. The lots are within the development. Reducing a yard from 25 to 20 is not going to adversely impact the property abutting it. The strict application of provisions of the regulations from which a variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship on the property owner represented application. So the hardship would be in the marketability of lots, but it is not considered an unnecessary hardship in and of itself, just simply the marketability of it. That the variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, or convenience, prosperity, or general welfare, and that granted the variance desired will not be opposed to general spirit and intent of these regulations and will not affect the health, safety, or general welfare. So we don't believe, generally speaking, it's going to affect the health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare, and it does seem to be the general spirit. So just simply reducing, like I said, the lot size from 20 to 25 is not going to bring unnecessary hardship upon the neighbors or cause a health, safety, or welfare issue. This is just simply to create larger backyards. These are the two lots in question. This is Gotto Trails End. This is 23rd. This is 215. Here's the two lots.
And the only one a variance on the two.
So far, that they've asked for. It spells it out in the application, so they say, which lots are you asking this for? And so they've listed these two. You may see more in the future, but we'll know if it's not deemed favorable, or whether or not they'll see more. So there is a small class of location approved as a form per the city attorney KSA 12759. It is for guidance and does not need to be met in order to grant a variance. It is recommended the Planning Commission approve the variance request, case number VAR-23-2. At this point, open up for questions, comments.
What's the building size that are going on in the lots?
First, last name, where you at?
I'm Craig Sharp with Craig Sharp Homes, and I can answer a couple of your questions you already had, but we're building 7 duplexes on those first 7 lots there. The 2 that are in question, we're building 4-bedroom units on rather than 3-bedroom units on, so they're just deeper and they don't fit. I mean, we're sticking over either the back or the front setbacks by about 3 feet, 3 foot 4 inches, I think. We were doing 4 out of the 7 were 4 bedrooms. The other 2, the lots were deep enough and they fit. So that's the only reason we were asking. I will say that we're doing these 2 plans are very popular, and we're doing those in Valley Center, and we're doing them out here on 19th and Kellogg in Goddard schools, and we're also doing them in Mays. And we've actually developed those all as 20-foot setbacks rather than 25-foot setbacks from the get-go, so we haven't had any problem with all those. So that's how we've been getting around that, but we ran into a few hurdles on those couple lots. Square footage of the units are about 1,250 each side. 2-car garages.
With the 4-bedroom.
4 bedrooms. Actually, they're about 1,350 each side.
So the ones at 119th and Kellogg, south side of the road,
Yes, those are all 20-foot setbacks.
is there any issue with a full-size extended cab truck?
No, so
Driveway?
for people to understand that too, a setback is from the property line. You also have 14 foot 6 inches more from the property line to the curb. So you've got 34 foot 6 inches to the front. So you've got plenty of room for parking. So it's not just the 20 foot.
And what size is the backyard?
There's a 20 foot rear setback mandated. So they're not very big, you know, that's why we want to pull them up as much as we can.
Did Wichita change that 20-foot setback just for that development?
No, they've done it in a lot of different, almost all their duplex areas have been going to the 20 foot. Mays actually, they had it at 20, they had it platted as 25 and 6-yard setbacks, and we applied, it's a brand new area, we're just getting ready to start on, and they just did an administrative adjustment and made it 5 foot on the sides and 20 foot at the fronts to line up a lot with what Wichita's doing.
Anybody else doing it? Derby?
I haven't been there, so I can't tell you.
I didn't know if you had any going.
Yeah, I don't have any going there.
Mr. Parks?
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet, thank you.
More discussion, look for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the variance request, case number BAR-23-2. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is item F.3. This is a variance for setback requirements, Big Arm Development. This is an informal review, so you just had a formal review. This is an informal review. There has not been a formal application on this one. This is to receive and file and direct staff accordingly and to answer any questions that the city, that the agent for the applicant might have. So this is F.3. So Ken Lee of Garber would like the Board of Zoning Appeals to give their opinion on the possibility of approving a variance request for reduced setbacks for the Big Arm Development. The request would be for all lots, except I will amend that. It's just not for all lots, it's for a certain amount, which will be expressed later. Within the development to have reduced side yard setbacks from the required 6 to 4 at the minimum. The developer has noticed that slightly larger duplexes tend to retain tenants longer and are more marketable, and as such, he would like to add additional room for rear door egress and additional patio space. So authorized variances and finding of fact, as we discussed before, this is under section 10107D. This would be to vary the applicable bulk regulations. Per the city attorney, it is for guidance that does not need to be met in order to grant a variance. This request is not a formal request yet, so we have not published it in the city newspaper, letters haven't gone out, or anything of that nature. This is simply receive and file and express your opinion on what you think is reasonable for this one. It would need to be published and letter sent out to all property owners within 200 feet per the standard process like we did for F2. This is Big Arm. Highlighted all of them just to kind of help it stand out. There is a small cost for publication if we were to do it. Legally, it would be approved as a form per the city attorney, KSA 12759E is for guidance. It does not need to be met or grant a variance. It is recommended planning commission receive and file and direct staff accordingly. I'll go back to the map. At this point, I'll invite Ken Lee of Garver to come up and express the request.
Good evening, Ken Lee with Garver, 1995 Midfield Road, Wichita, Kansas. The developer reached out to us a few weeks ago to ask about this, and we missed the deadline by a couple days. And so in talking with Michael, we figured we might as well just get the temperature of the room and get some thoughts on it. I did a handout earlier that's got some yellow dots on it. I only brought 5 copies, so share amongst your friends. My apologies. But the yellow lots are the ones that we specifically want you to look at. The rest of the lots, due to the configuration of the site, the lots were larger, and we would not need to do reductions on those lots, as it turns out. When we first talked with Micah, we were looking at generic going the whole way, but in looking a little more closely, we have enough room on the other lots to accommodate the larger houses. And what happened here is when his first product, he's built these in a number of different locations around the Wichita area, and he had been doing 25-foot wide units. And these are 2-story units, so it's one above the other, so it's 25 foot. Each unit is 25 by 54 feet deep, but it's 2 stories, so there's a duplex above and below. What he's found is when he had one that had more room, it rents more easily. He's got less delay on renting it out, and a little bit more revenue per unit on it. So the combination of those 2 factors is why he'd like to look at being able to use that larger standard unit that's 27 feet 8 inches wide as opposed to 25. Again, that handout, it's the yellow dotted lots is the ones that you'd be looking at. There's decent access on the back side of there. One of the concerns whenever you start reducing setbacks is can you get back to it? You can see that there's a large access area reserved behind the lots that would provide access behind the lots if that was necessary. Plus, he owns that other lot there with the parking lot that's visible on the screen. So we're not worried about access on those lots as far as getting back there. There is still a utility easement that would provide easement or egress and ingress for the utility companies towards the west end of the area as well. So he asked me to see about 4 feet, and we know that's pretty narrow. I will tell you that in order to go that low, he would have to do fire-rated walls on the buildings, and we've talked to him about it, that building codes require that when you're under 10 feet or under 11 feet, you have to start going to different wall treatments. So there'll be a little extra cost for him in that respect, but we would make sure that they're designed appropriately where they meet the permitting requirements for the reduced setback.
And you said these are going to be 2-story?
Yeah, they're 2 stories.
It's kind of like the ones they're doing up there around Maze. I think it's like 45th and Tyler area, if I remember right.
No, it's not like those at 45th and Tyler. That's a different product. Actually, Kirk, who was just here, he did those. Examples of these are at 250 or at Kellogg and Oliver. There's some on the north side of Kellogg and Oliver there. There's also some at 13th and McLean. Some over on Central, north of Central on 235. So if you're driving along, you can see them on the east side of 235. We actually did a large development up in Park City where we did 80 of them in one area, and that's actually where he got the idea that he started wanting to do the larger building sizes. Was the one up in Park City, and so he's done them in a number of different places. I will just tell you that if 4 foot's like you don't feel good, if 5 foot is a number that feels better, we want to, that's what we want to do is get a feeling for. He would like to go down to 4. We can make 4.5 foot work if we need to. If it's got to be 5 foot, we want to make sure to work with you as a planning commission to make sure that you're comfortable with what we bring to the table here. So That's part of the reason why we wanted to get some feedback on it.
Be similar roof line, you got that 13th roof line.
He's kind of gotten away from that, just straight roof like that. The ones we're doing in Park City actually have hip roofs or gable roofs on those. I don't know, I can't remember specifically at Big Arm which type he's going with, but he's kind of varied the roof styles. And I know like Park City, they specifically require that they do a variety of different roof styles and front finishes, just so it didn't end up looking like just a giant row of the same.
And what's the parking gonna look like?
They typically, what they do is they'll have, these don't have garages, so they'll have 4 parking stalls out in front of each unit.
All concrete covered?
Yeah, well, they won't be covered, but they'll be concrete. Outside the street right away, he'll have concrete parking outside the street right away. And on lots where there's space allowed, he wants to actually push the houses back a little bit more to give a little bit more front area, but some of the lots are pretty tight and they'll fit, and that's all, there's just enough room to get them to fit on.
Duplexes or single family?
Duplex.
Duplexes?
Yeah. And I will say the picture's a little
Similar to that, 2 story,
I've seen some of them.
Yeah, different roof line.
Yeah, so I will say that picture's a little deceptive. It makes it look like a couple of those lots are really large, but there's actually a large gas line easement that runs through there that eats up a tremendous amount of buildable space out there. It eats up 100 feet of space through the middle of the addition. So it looks like there's more room out there than there is in reality.
4 foot doesn't sound like much, but some of the patio home developments, you can walk between those and almost touch the houses by reaching out like that.
Yeah.
A little bit different situation, but
Yeah.
those are retirement communities maintained by the HOA. And
Yeah. Well, there's a, I can't remember, it's Precision Home Builders.
Perfection.
Perfection, it's Perfection. Yeah, they do a lot where it's 0 on one and 6 on the other, so that's the ones where you feel like you can touch both of them. So.
Michael, what's the minimum lot size for a duplex?
25 by 100.
And they just fit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so that like I said, the ones on the south side, you'll see those are 40 foot wide if you look at that printout I gave. So they have enough room that we can make those work with you can actually go up to a 28 foot wide building on those lots with the existing setback.
I had to make them, don't have to magnify it. If I can see it.
I don't know what they used to be.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the street view, if you look at Kellogg and Oliver, that's kind of it's the same kind of product, but it's a different roof line and a different finish on the front. And he did those as well. So.
That addition, there was no grass in between, all concrete, so that's a similar plan here.
Yeah, you typically when you get 2-story tall buildings that close together, the light isn't great, and so it's better to just have a hard surface there. Depending on the builder and all that, they do sometimes have a little bit more green space out front to provide some green space out front of the buildings and not just be all concrete too. But
Yeah.
just depends on the space there and how, like I said, on some of these he wants to pull them back where he's got the room available. So.
Yeah, so, pretty simple.
No garages or anything. No garages, no
Those have a
cars.
They used to have carports, but it sounded like they were gonna do.
He's instructed us not to promise carports. It depends on the market condition. They've added them where they needed to on some of them, but some of them they don't. So they don't want to guarantee carports. It just depends on market conditions. But he said right now with the way the interest rates and everything are, it's a little tighter market than it's been in the past. So he's probably less inclined for carports. But if that's what it takes to move them and fill them up, he would add those in. So.
think I asked this, I'm sorry, but will it be concrete all the way like these? No grass? Is that what I'm sorry,
Yeah,
if I thought somebody asked.
Yeah, all the parking surfaces will be concrete, and then it'll be concrete between the buildings.
Okay.
Some of them, we've had some green space, a little bit of green space in front of the house for some grass. It just depends on the space available, and how they finish that out. But they will have sidewalks that run behind the parking as well. So these are actually, when they get done, they look more like apartment complexes than anything else. They kind of get that look a little bit.
Yeah, feel.
Are the rest of the lots going to be a similar structure? Or are they
Yeah, everything, they're all proposed to be the same structure. There's a couple lots that, because of the shape of the site, like lot, I think it's 19, it's the furthest, it's the one right next to the pond. It's not as deep. He'll probably have to put a little bit wider but shorter structure on that lot just because of the available buildable space. And then those two lots there actually are kind of tight on depth, so both of those might be slightly wider, but they're also larger lots to start with, so there's a little bit more buildable width on those.
I still like the 6 foot, single clean, or to the line. 5 would be around, I believe.
Good, good.
I did.
He likes 6 foot.
You know,
Any other?
the thing about it, the only reason I would comment is so it's 8 foot of paved, it's not 8 foot of grass. So it
If you got a
seems,
2-story building, something like that close together, you ain't gonna get the sun in there to grow anything anyway.
no,
Right.
no. That's why I said, I mean, everything, it's tight, but everything fits.
Not even sure 6 foot's gonna get you enough sun in there to.
No. I'd say 5 would be minimum.
Yeah, and that's why we're here tonight, is to get that kind of a feel for it. He would prefer 4 or 4.5, but 5 is the number that you can live with. That's what we need to know. So, and he'll just have to adjust his design accordingly.
Yeah.
Because again, there's nothing's gonna be in there, so.
And won't need any access between them. Because
Yeah.
there won't be any.
Well, like I said, there's a couple access points to the back, and this property has a reserve behind the lots as well, so there's ability to get in behind the homes if they need to, regardless.
One of the sets has stairs along the side of the building. Is that how this would be set up?
He's done a couple different styles. His most current one that he's been doing, actually, the stairs run across the front. That's yeah, that's the most recent one we've done for him. They ran across the front, but I think he's got a variety of different ways he's handled it. So on these with the narrower setbacks, I would presume that he'll have to do it on the front, because with the narrower setbacks, he's not going to have room to do the other probably. So I would expect it'll be front loaded on the stairs.
Making decision based. Discussion and file, so. If anybody's got an opinion, throw it out to the here.
Is there any emergency services, with the narrows? Are there any issues there?
Well, like we were discussing earlier, there's other builders, Perfection Builders and such, where they've done some where they're 0 lot line on one, 6 on the other, and so there's a lot of instances where it's narrower, and typically the crossing through is.
Literally 6 feet between you, I can almost stand there and touch 2 houses.
So, and again, there's access to get around if they need to, so.
I was thinking police or fire or something.
I don't know of any specific requirement on that from that regard, but.
Is this gonna have any effect on drainage with Harlan, having that much impervious surface?
It has to be taken into account for stormwater retention, but they would have to work with Harlan and Garber would have to work together with that, but I mean, that's a good question for Ken. I mean, is that a consideration for calculating the stormwater retention? The amount of impervious surface that's being projected?
We're going to be adding 100 square feet per building, so you're probably talking 3,000 square feet in total, so less than 1/10 of an acre difference. So I wouldn't expect that it'd have any impact on it. It's pretty minimal amount of actually, when you look at the overall big picture, it's a minimal amount of extra impervious.
Before we rendered any decision, I'd like to have
Okay.
Harlan's input on that, just to be safe. I don't want to cause any kind of flooding issues anywhere.
So when we bring this
On
back,
accident.
one of the things you're saying is go ahead and talk to Harlan about the additional impervious area, and that's fair.
Make sure that Pollen's gonna be plenty big enough to hold the water.
Okay. And I guess the question here, I know you had mentioned 5, I mean, 4.5, 5, I mean, is there any kind of number that, as a group, that you feel more comfortable with?
I like 5 feet.
Yeah, okay.
Like you're new to the party. You got any?
Well, I was
you
gonna
got a
bring,
number?
you stole my thunder, I was gonna bring up the 10-foot. Greater than 10 foot, it changes everything in the IVC. So that's kind of a magic number. So if you were 10 foot and 1 inch, then those walls, I don't know if they drop down from a 2 to a 1.
Yeah, well, and we've talked to him about that is the impact, and
You get under 10, and I know these are probably sprinkled either way, but you get under 10 and you're like at a 2-hour wall.
yeah.
Separation, so.
Yeah, and there won't be, I don't believe this,
Some-
I don't think the requirement is for sprinkled on these, because I don't think the building code's gonna require sprinkled, but.
Oh, because it's under 4
Yeah,
units.
'cause it's under 4 units.
Correct.
But, no, we've talked with him about
Okay.
about the fire code, the fire rating on the walls if it goes under that, so he's aware of that, and, for him, he said that it's not a problem for him, but again, he wanted to get feedback from the group here, and this is great because it's informal, so, you know, it gives us the opportunity to kind of get a feel for it.
Because you know all fire just stops at 10 foot.
Right.
He goes, oh gosh, I can't get
You gotta draw a line somewhere.
So it's a magic number.
Yeah.
So do you have a magic number in your head?
Oh.
Opinion?
No, I mean, because it's like you're saying with the sunlight and everything and the drainage, if you're at 12 feet, you're probably going to pave it all between them either way.
The front part of it, as it goes further back, it depends on the angle of the house and all that. Some of them, the back half might be unpaved, but in general, I would plan on it being either gravel or concrete is what I would plan on. It's such a tight space and 2-story buildings.
So you're not saying going to 8 foot, it would definitely be paved, it could still be gravel?
Yeah, either way, I don't think the distance is going to have an impact on how he does treatment in between them.
Okay.
I think even at 12 feet, he'd be looking at putting concrete and gravel between.
Do they put windows on those walls when they put them that close together at all? Just curious.
The two samples here do not.
I was gonna say, I think it's just
So
front
it's
and back
just-
windows.
You're 2 stories high and
Yeah, front
what
and
is
back.
it, depth, no openings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic numbers from the left side?
To me, 5 and 10 or 4 and 5 is really insignificant with the concrete. If it was something different, you were trying to maybe landscape on either side of that, I can see where 5 would make it, the foot would make a difference. But to me, 4, I'm not gonna.
I'm worried. Got a 5 and 4.5.
Yeah, I'm with Jamie.
I think
It's not
I
gonna
think
be.
you're splitting hairs.
I do too. I mean, I would like to maximize the size of the unit to make them
For sure.
more appealing and
Yeah.
marketable.
So the biggest issue here is just making sure that we get Harlan's buy-off before we bring it back. That's probably the biggest thing that we need to look at then. Okay. And it might be, we may look at it, and if 4.5 is that magic number that he still gets the unit, we may do that just to give a little bit more guaranteed space. But again, it's not only gonna affect we're only planning on it affecting the ones along that north side there, so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a name on it?
Other people's are. So I'd be receiving file and direct staff accordingly. So if what I gather from this, I'll be working with Harlan and Garver to make sure that impervious surface and the detention ponds are sized accordingly to maximize and capture the flow.
It's like, from the pictures we're seeing, the streets and the fronts being all concrete and possibly concrete between the building, that's, a lot of runoff, so.
Okay, very good. You'll probably be seeing this in December of potentially.
Yeah, we'll talk with Bob and see what he wants
Sounds
to do.
good.
You'll see it in
Okay.
the not too distant future.
No, not to this in future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is item F4. This is a Cloverleaf lot split, case number SPLT-236 through 9. So there's 4 lot splits here. Abbott Land Surveyors has submitted 4 lot split application for the Cloverleaf development. Lot splits are required per the subdivision regulations when a 2-unit development is being sold to 2 separate parties. So this is under Article 12. Lot splits are required when 2-unit structures are being sold as 2 separate units. Lot splits allow the county to create 2 separate parcel numbers for each unit. This is under 122.3 for approval guidelines. No lot split shall be approved if a new street or alley is needed or proposed. So there's no new streets or alleys being proposed. A vacation of streets, alleys, setback lines, access control easements is required or proposed. There's no vacations required. Such action result in significant increases in service requirements, utilities, schools, traffic control, streets, etc., or interfere with maintaining existing street services. So this is not a significant increase in services. We're still having 2 units, so it's going from a duplex to a twin home, but it's still just 2 units. There is less street right-of-way than required by these regulations or the comprehensive plan unless such dedication can be made by separate instrument. So this is not requiring less street right-of-way. All easement requirements have not been satisfied, so there's no change to the easements, and all easements have been satisfied. Such split will result in a tract without direct access to the street, so both lots will have access to the road. A substandard sized lot or parcel will be created, so R2 2-family residential allows for 35 by 100. Such actions will result in a lot being split into more than 2 tracts, except for industrial zone platted lots, which may be split into more than 2 tracts. So this is only for 2 tracts. These are the lots being split. You can see here, these are the lots that were split in the past. So this is Cloverleaf, which has about 3 lots left. This one's almost done completely, which we're really happy about. Originally, this one hit my desk in 2019, the early part of 2019. There was 133 residential lots. They shifted the east side of it down, and it became 130 lots, and then they slowly started splitting them per our subdivision regulations as each duplex was built. You can see the aerial image of the duplex underneath the yellow. And as each one gets built, we were forcing them to split it because they're turning them into twin homes, and then the parcel number, which is this number you see here, gets created, and then it just moves up as they split them. And so since we require them to do a survey and the split, they can't really do that until after the duplex is built or the twin home is built. So now you're seeing them slowly, like 2 at a time, then 3 at a time, and now 4 at a time later. So that's what's happening up the east side. Financially and legally approved as a form, it is recommended the Planning Commission approve the lot splits for Cloverleaf, case number SPLT-23-6 through 9.
So the question, I think we asked this in the past, but I want to answer again.
Yep.
They're doing 2 sewer taps?
Yes.
Not just 1 sewer line?
No, well, sewer taps, there's I believe it's 1 sewer tap and 1 water tap, and then but there's 2 separate meter cans. But I think the sewer tap splits and has a split off, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'm not sure. But I believe it's just a 1 tap
It
split.
gets clogged. Who pays for running the line?
Yeah, good question. Similar to who pays for fixing the roof when the roof.
My son just ran into this at his duplex.
Yeah, so we force them when we know it's becoming a duplex or becoming a twin home or something of that nature, that they have 2 meter cans. But I'm not sure about the sewer part. Traditionally, it sounds like they do 1 sewer tap and then they split the sewer. This sewer gets split to run into both of them.
But there's 2 separate lines running from the house and then converging into the tap, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I believe so. And I have to express my complete ignorance of being on the construction side. I've never actually witnessed what's going in at that point. I just do the planning and zoning and pretend like I know what I'm talking about when I bring it to you guys. So. But I haven't actually seen the construction side of things where how they split them. But we do require 2 meter cans for water. But I think they do the same thing with the water. It's 1 tap and then it splits to the meter can. So I assume it's the same thing with the sewer.
Yeah.
Feel free.
Well, I can imagine they would do that for the sewer as well. Sanitary sewers. Typically, you're gonna have your own tap into the main. These are what the duplex are
Like I said, that is, it was his neighbor's side that backed up. Every time she would flush her toilet, it would come up in theirs.
It was designed as duplexes originally, so I'm assuming perhaps Doug would be correct, Commissioner Hall would be correct, that they were designed, since they were originally designed as duplexes, we're just splitting them. Perhaps they were designed to have 2 separate sewer taps, but I can't say definitively on that.
Which is not really the overall consideration for this. Something that in the future.
Yeah.
I can certainly ask.
It'd be nice to know.
Yeah.
Discussion?
I don't have a problem with that.
No.
Get a motion?
I make a motion. We do the lot split.
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. This is item G, old business. This is item H1, new business. H1 site plan, this is for Casey's General Store. So Jeff Lobach of SSB Engineering and Sarah Filippi of Casey's General Store have submitted a site plan application for Casey's. All commercial buildings and residential multifamily developments must submit a site plan for review and approval. Site plans are reviewed first by the Community Development Director, and if deemed complete to an extent acceptable, they will be presented to the Planning Commission for review and approval. Site plan is for a tract of land in the Goddard City Center Second Edition development that is underway in the final stages of planning. The Planning Commission is considering approving a site plan for the Goddard City Center. So the address would be 1710 South 183rd Street West, and land use is gas station, general store. Building floor area is 4,500. Building coverage is 8.8. Building height is 21.4 feet. The parking space is 1 space per 250 square feet. There's 18 provided parking spots with 1 ADA. There is 1 monument sign, it's 25 feet. Total lot area is 1.19 acres. The zoning is C2 General Business District. Number of gas stalls is 10. So there are 28 pages, obviously, in the attachment. So they provided a lot of additional information. It's not that we require that much information, but when they do provide it, I do like to present it that way. If anyone has additional questions, they can review it. This is where the Casey's is going to be. As mentioned, you can see this dash line here. This is access controlled by KDOT, but it stops right there. So they may be discussing future access control with Casey's in the future. But right now, KDOT only has access control here for access onto 54 in the future. This is one entry point here. This is a future entry point into the Goddard City Center Edition. And this lot here is part of the plat for the Goddard City Center Second Edition. This is future and proposed contours, and so what you see here is that water, generally speaking, is going to be heading east at this break point, and then also to the west. These are elevations, as is required. This is a front facade showing where the signs will be located. These are the stall signs and where the stalls will be. We did inform them that they have to do monument signs, so they've switched it from a pylon to this filled in black Casey sign, which has complete ground contact and at least a minimum of 50%. The base is 50% of the face of the sign, per the requirements of the monument sign.
What's the height on that?
25. Here's a three-dimensional rendering or isometric of where the lighting is going to be.
Yeah.
Same place like that.
This is the light impact. This question came up, so I noticed in the review of the site plan that they had a miscellaneous note that the dumpster enclosure would have a 6-foot height chain link with vinyl slats. I did notice that the dumpster was set behind the building, but I did want to bring this up to the Planning Commission because I'm somewhat torn. I prefer that the dumpster enclosure actually be something a little more aesthetically pleasing, even though this one is set out. I mentioned this to Casey's. They did provide the secondary option, wood slats instead of the chain link with the vinyl. But I'll leave that up to the Planning Commission to make that determination because generally speaking, it's supposed to match the general construction or material of the building, even though it's not implicitly stated in the site plan regulations. So the question is this, would it be acceptable if it's chain link since it's not going to be exposed? For example, you can see the dumpster wrap for Dairy Queen and Starbucks and everything else. It's masonry, and they've wrapped it off because it's available to the public. This one's tucked behind the building, so that 183rd is over here. I will say, like I said, I prefer something a little more aesthetically pleasing, but it is out of the way. So when I get confused or scared, I just bring it to Planning Commission. Have you guys decide what to do?
Except that when you turning off the proposed entry, you were staring at it.
I would prefer the wood over chain link or vinyl slag, because those get tore up fairly easily.
I would like brick or something.
Financially and legally, it's approved as a form. It is recommended the Planning Commission approve the site plan for the new Casey's General Store, taking into consideration that the dumpster wrap. And we do have Jeff Lobach here representing Casey's. If you do have any questions for him.
Is future development to the east, I think in my direction, they're correct.
To the east?
Yeah, it would be what?
Well, this would be under, so Ben Healy bought all the land to the south.
Right.
And he also bought all the land to the north. Out west is right here.
Right.
And this one is under the process. You guys saw the preliminary plat. You haven't seen the final plat yet, but you've seen the preliminary plat for the Goddard City Center's second edition, which includes this land here and then all this land over here. It's proposed to be commercial. So right now it's zoned commercial. So right now the only thing they could build would be commercial, unless they did a downzoning. Residential is in the PUD, but it's to the south. And the northern part of the PUD is commercial. The southern part of the PUD further south is residential. That's apartments and patio homes and things of that nature.
So if the state asks for more access control, is that going to affect that entrance at all?
You want to answer that one? Come on up, come on up. Might as well. You drove all the way out here. First and last name?
Daniel.
Address.
Good evening, Jeff Lawback, SBB Engineering, the civil engineer consultant for Casey's on this project. Yeah, so right now KDOT does not have any access control on where this proposed entrance is on 183rd. Farther north, they do. So it would be relatively hard for KDOT to come back and take that access away. In our viewpoint, I mean, if they did, I guess we would still have the access point to the south. You know, it's like any other development, you're always kind of at the mercy of KDOT with them putting in a median, making it a right in, right out, or, you know, but at this time, the city controls that right of way on 183rd south of the north property line. So, you know, we've talked previously if Kellogg was to, you know, go through, you know, maybe there's, and if that entrance closed, then maybe there is an access drive that maybe there's cross access in the future, but, you know, that could be, you know, 20 years down the road, so.
There's no access behind the building other than the dumpster?
Correct.
I'm assuming that's the fuel tanks on
Yeah, that
north
north end.
Yes.
I assume you're not, because I was wondering the same thing.
Required any stormwater retention here anywhere?
Yeah, so since this is part, it's interesting because they're doing the site plan before the plat's done, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it means that the plat, which you guys have already seen the preliminary plat, the final plat has to take into account the detention that's going to be created by Casey's as part of it.
Yeah.
And so, Bachman has to take into account Casey's impervious surface in their detention plan, which was noted that they oversized the detention ponds pretty significantly for that Goddard City Center second edition, because the water's going to be dumping that way. And thankfully, Van Healy owns all of it, so it's not like there's going to be a conflict there. He's more than happy to sell that lot to Casey's and also accommodate their stormwater at the same time. The plating, when it's finalized, is going to have to take care of it.
Yeah, and I can expand on that a little bit. Like Mike said before, you know, everything's kind of shedded this way. But from this point on, roof drains, we're putting a curb inlet here, then drains back to the southeast corner. And the seller's engineer is, you know, extending storm sewer up to connect or to drain this north portion, and they're handling detention off-site. So we're throwing, you know, even the same drainage, you know, through the ditch here, but we're actually reducing what's going through this super shallow, flat ditch along 103rd. So from our viewpoint, we're kind of helping the drainage a little bit, because it's pretty flat, and we're not throwing as much towards the road, we're throwing it back this way.
You're gonna handle the ditch as long as Healy's will handle it.
Yeah, is there a curb on the parking lot?
Yes.
So that acts as quasi-detention that's going to funnel it?
Yeah, so I mean, we're creating high points somewhere here in the parking lot, so what hits here is gonna go and get into the inlet, and then it's kind of bucket grade. You know, 'cause this store's higher and this is lower, so bucket grade draining back to their storm sewer. To lessen the impact over here.
We got a little bit of water in October 25th, just a little bit.
5 inches.
We got a 5-year rainfall event, so it's a good time to assess our stormwater.
And in 4 years, someone get like 10 or something.
If they did, then they win.
There's some areas that got 9 or 10 inches.
Yeah, we got 2.25 in an hour, so we have a lot in a short amount of time. So we really tested some of the stormwater areas. The areas that were considered distressed really came from an accident. If Bachman can take that into account and detain accordingly, it should be fine.
And the look of this store is pretty similar if you go down to west side of Wichita to, I think it's West Street and Taft. There was a store that was built 3 or 4 years ago that we did for Casey's. That store's a little bigger, but it has kind of the same look as far as the materials and front elevations that he showed you as far as the signage package. So it's pretty good looking store, but they've, you know, I've worked on Casey's for, I don't know, 15 years or so, and they started, you know, around 3,500 square feet, and they gradually grown this building size up to around 6,500 square feet, which is probably close to what the Wichita one was. And everything obviously got more expensive, so they started going back down. So this is around 4,500. So just for reference for other ones that you see around.
I like the facade, I like the sign.
Yeah.
Other than putting wood structure in the trash enclosure.
I'm just curious if
we can match the facade out front.
the east side of that's gonna be commercial at some point.
Yeah, it's because of about
Well, I was just, not that that's Casey's problem, but, I mean, I would see.
I don't want chain link and vinyl slabs.
No.
minimum would be wood. I'd like to see the same stone put on a building around it,
Yeah.
but
That'd be my preference to match the facade there.
I would agree.
Even though it's out of sight.
Well,
Well,
it is
for now,
found when the development goes to the east of it, you're gonna
Right.
see it where
Yeah,
we're
that's true.
potentially. I mean, again, not necessarily Casey's problem, but from my perspective, if
Well, do we want wood or stone then? Now's the time.
My preference would be to match the facade.
I agree with that.
Better do some gates with it. I mean, if the walls could be a match from the facade, at least similar to what the Dairy Queen or, some of those other buildings in that area have done.
Yeah, so Casey's has kind of three options. They have the chain link with slats, which is obviously the cheaper, and then the second's the wood, and then the ultimate is the same brick material and stone that's on the building. So they do whatever's per code or whatever's required. So sure. So we showed the cheapest one, and it's not required by code. So.
I would like to see the stone.
I would agree.
Just for future development, it'll blend in better, so. Nice building, they use some cheap now on the trash and load.
Yeah, and sometimes they are farther away from the building, just kind of depends on the layout, but yeah, that one is fairly close to the building, so.
Let's make it.
As long as they're small, that'd be 2 stories.
Looking forward to some good pizza.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
So the recommendation would be the planning commission approve the site plan for New Casey's General Store with the provision of contingent upon a dumpster wrap being of the same material as facade or a masonry wrap.
Ready for motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the site plan for Casey's General Store with the trash enclosure be stone,
Matching that size of the building.
match the building.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you very much. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the night. We'll look forward to some breakfast pizza. We'll get a free breakfast pizza samples, I believe. This is item H.2. This is the overlay district discussion. So on October 9th, the City Council and the Planning Commission discussed the possibility of an overlay district around the city center, north of Santa Fe and south of US 54 and west of 199. Purpose of the overlay district is supplement a specific area to encourage a particular end goal within that area. The overlay district, similar to a zoning district, has a purpose outline, definition of terms, sign usage, setbacks, design criteria as an example. The ideas behind the Old Town Overlay District would be to try and achieve several goals as discussed in past years. All of these ideas are open-ended and subject to final approval of the Planning Commission and City Council in the adoption of the policy. The Delano Overlay District is partnered with the Delano Neighborhood Revitalization Plan that was adopted in March of 2001. This plan is an amendment to the comprehensive plan for a specific area of Wichita. Since the Goddard Comprehensive Plan is due to be updated, it might be in the best interest of the Planning Commission and City Council to discuss Old Town through the lens of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan could look at Old Town as an area that could be reflected in the comprehensive plan as a standalone area similar to the Delano District. So basically, when I was diving into the Delano District, they had, which I've included, of course, because why not, the whole neighborhood plan, which is like 98 pages. That's why the PDF is so massive. But basically, they created the Delano District as an overlay district, and underneath it, it's got multiple zoning classifications, but the overlay district, and then that overlay district is tied to a neighborhood plan, which has like facade requirements and sign requirements and setback requirements, and it's very interesting to review that, which is not uncommon, But I thought perhaps since the neighborhood plan is part of the comprehensive plan for Wichita, perhaps since the comprehensive plan for Goddard is out of date, that might be something that could be taken into account, where the Planning Commission and City Council work on how they want Old Town to be revitalized in the future, looking at it through the lens of the comprehensive plan. And maybe that's something that could be discussed during this time, and obviously with the new council members that have just been elected, going forward into the future. So one point here would simply be, what goals does the city hope to accomplish in this area? So that's come up before, like what are we trying to accomplish? How can these goals turn into actionable items for consideration? So if we establish goals, and what kind of policies would reflect the accomplishment of those goals? Revitalization, so as mentioned during citizens' comments and before, you guys have heard it, multiple types of family dwelling units, so smaller homes possibly in certain areas, and for single family, especially for first-time home buyers, two-family development, multifamily, mixed-use development, commercial, single, with dwelling units on top. Walkability and additional sidewalks, as mentioned, we've talked about how many kids walk in that area to and from the Goddard High, and there's not a lot of sidewalk, they stop at a certain point, so perhaps that's something that can be looked at. The Delano Neighborhood Revitalization Plan is included, and this is some snippets that we pulled out of it. So it looks at quality of housing, architecture style, year built, just several different factors when looking at how they want to tackle that specific area of Wichita. So I think similar review could be done for this older part of Goddard, trying to tackle what kind of goals the City Council and the Planning Commission would like to see in that particular area. So I did something similar, just kind of brief snippet from GIS. We're looking at year built by parcel. So you can see that we have a large concentration, especially of sub 2,000 homes. I mean, the majority of them are all sub 2,000. Some of these lots, obviously, if they say zero, there's nothing built there, but you see 2,000, you see 1955, 1955, 1970. And this composition of different housing type means that the quality of the housing also is affected, because homes don't last forever, as you're aware, unless they're made out of something very sturdy. And so this comes from the county quality rating. It goes from 1 to 6, 6 being the best and 1 being the worst. And so you can see that the light blue is considered average. Anything that's dark blue is considered slightly above average, and anything that's other, which would be yellow, orange, or lighter orange, or red, is considered below average quality housing. So that means the quality, the composition of the house has started to decline over time, and either there hasn't been enough materials added over time, new siding or roofing or whatever, and so the county has deemed it as being below average quality housing at that point, in terms of just the quality, not necessarily the inside in that particular situation. But that's just something to take into account. Financially done, legally approved as a form. It is recommended the Planning Commission receive and file and direct staff accordingly and discuss amongst yourselves. It's something to be taken into account of how you would want to move forward with an overlay district if it was running in tandem with the comprehensive plan, or what you guys would like to see particularly in that area.
My personal opinion is this needs a lot of discussion before we jump on anything, especially if new city council members coming in, different opinions. We need to get together early in next year, the city council, and get realigned and try and figure this out together.
Agree.
If the city's due for a new comprehensive plan, I think this should be part of that discussion and that planning development.
Opinions?
Sidewalks.
Absolutely.
Sidewalks and no dirt streets in the
The city puts in more sidewalks, it eliminates a lot of issues, so,
Yeah, I would, sorry, I failed to mention, these are kind of unique because they're 350 by 350, the whole block is, and they have alleys. So they're very, what's called walkable. They're not considered super blocks, and so you can, for example, here, this would kind of be considered a super block. You have to walk a long way just to get around to, like, for this point. If you started here, you can walk this way to get to here, or you have to walk all the way around to get to here. But these areas over here, these are, pre-World War II or post-World War II. And they're very short blocks, 350 by 350, with an alley through the center, so they're very walkable. You can get to any other point. And so I think to running in tandem with what Commissioner Klein said, sidewalks would be really beneficial in this area, generally speaking. I think they'd be highly utilized as well.
We tackle them one block at a time.
And the question is, who's going to pay for the sidewalk?
There's different
Partially on the
ways.
homeowner.
There's different ways we can consider how sidewalks could be paid for. We can do bond issuances where it get paid generally with cash. The city would pay with cash for a certain portion of it. We could consider grants. We could consider the cost share portion, where a portion is applied as an assessment to the property owner. There's lots of different ways that we could consider how we could tackle sidewalks. If Planning Commission, City Council were in tandem on that, it could be a directive that's given. But we could look at that. There's definitely options. It's just simply if there's that cohesion between Planning Commission, City Council of how they want to direct it. Any other thoughts on this one?
I would just throw in time frames would be important.
Time frames?
Otherwise it'll be talk, and then time will go by and we talk some more.
And more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's running in tandem, theoretically, if it's running in tandem with the comprehensive plan, that'd be something that council obviously would want to be involved in it as well. And so we would have to contract. Typically, you have firms like architecture, and engineering, and planning firms that will tackle a comprehensive plan. You know, we would send out what's called an RFP or an RFQ, which means a request for proposal or request for qualifications. And we would bid it, and then we would get bids back, and then we would review the bids, and then presumably City Council would select the best bid, and then that firm would put together a comprehensive plan. And at that point, they would draft a portion of that comprehensive plan to tackle the ideas and goals that Planning Commission, City Council, and the city at large has for Old Town, and what that would look like. But you're right, I mean, ultimately, there has to be, like I said, cohesion behind it, or else it could just be talk. It would just kind of cycle around and it would be done, but.
You know, I think with doing the sidewalks, you know, I've seen communities do like more decorative street lighting that really changes the appearance, changes the feel of the community.
Absolutely.
Rather than just having your big pole with the giant purple light on top of it.
Cobra lights.
Yeah.
That means it's bad.
Yeah, that means it's bad. So that could really, you know, something you can incorporate with the curbs and the sidewalks and the drainage and everything, and just get a look, something that's a little more humane.
That's good. I mean, that's covered in the Delano neighborhood plan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that is another good point, because lighting would be covered in that portion of it. If you wanted to see something that's more humane.
Could we do Justin's point with the drainage too? I mean, I know that's.
Drainage.
I mean, that was a discussion in the city council meeting last week.
Yeah, First Street. That was huge.
Yeah, just part of the Old Town area, just need to make sure we're figuring out what our best solutions are in 199th Street. I mean, if that's part of that, you know, issue as well.
You know, it's a mix. 199th, the issue is generally going to be the transportation, the car volume. There's been some comments made that the Star Bond's impacting First Street. The engineers say otherwise, so I'm not sure if that part is true, but First Street definitely is impacted no matter what.
It's been that way for.
Yes, prior to the Star Bond, it was definitely an issue prior to the Star Bond, but you're right that a lot of infrastructure, old infrastructure comes with old housing and an older part of the neighborhood. But yeah, that definitely, I mean, that'd be something too, is stormwater maintenance in Old Town would be a big deal as well. I have sidewalks, no dirt streets, sidewalks possibly at one block at a time, funding, time frames, decorative lighting, drainage, and stormwater generally speaking. So any other thoughts or ideas that can be considered for that particular area?
The thing else I'd say was just the commercial area on Main Street itself, you know, trying to utilize it as much of the space as possible.
Infill development?
Infill, yes.
Infill on Main Street. I believe, you know, I don't want to take the wind out of the sails yet, but I believe the new city administrator has ideas that he wants to float for Main Street development, which possibly grants, possibly doing exactly what Justin was talking about with what's called beautification or placemaking, which that all of those can be taken into account. And Main Street definitely is part of Old Town, so. Any other thoughts on the matter or ideas?
That's it for now.
All right. Very good. So we'll move on to item I. This is a staff report. So background, Mike Scott will be myself, Community Development Director, compiles a short, concise report outlining relevant information and presents it to the Planning Commission. So I'm just doing a quick economic report. So in 2019, we had about $165,000 of tap fees, about $113,000 of permit fees. And this is just for single-family, duplexes, triplexes, multifamily, and commercial. So that's just going to be those. This doesn't take into account mechanical or electrical or plumbing permits or fence permits or sign permits or anything of that nature. So we saw a big jump to $246,000 in 2020, then with a slight dip at $108,000, and then $120,000 for permits, $223,000 in 2021, then $227,000 and $88,000, and then $179,000 and $89,000 respectively. But this end right here is about to jump up dramatically as we're receiving more and more duplex permits for the Goddard Trails, which is really going to drive these last numbers before the end of the year are going to get shot up dramatically. So we're seeing that we're tracking pretty much on average. We haven't really seen too much of a decline building permit wise. This is kind of what we're looking at: single family, two family. So we got single family is blue, two family, which is duplexes and twin homes, orange, and gray is commercial, and then the total counts of all of them combined is what the yellow line is. And so we're at 57 in 2019, and we jumped up to 93 in 2020, 76, and then 81 and 61. And as mentioned, we're getting a bunch of permits in here, so this is going to get bumped back up again. So generally speaking, we're tracking about on average. It's not going too badly right now. In terms of valuation added, so just between single family, two family, multifamily, and commercial, once again, this is the complete valuation of all of the permits. And we had a huge jump here in 2019 because that's when we processed the Genesis permits. So there was $14 million for the Genesis and another $6 million for the Blast Off Bay. So that would really increase the valuation in 2019. And we saw a general drop down about $20 million, and then a large spike again in 2021 to $30 million. And then we're at $20 million right here, and another $20 million. So now we're about tracking about average again. And this one will probably get bumped up once more. But we're seeing the average, this seems to be about the average now, which they used to be, somewhere down here around 10 million probably per year on average. So now we're doubling that. And we're going to probably continue to see this trend as we approve more developments and process more building permits. We're going to see the valuation go up more and more. And the reason this is important is because the valuation dictates our debt limit, which is something that Commissioner Hayden wanted to know more about, was our finances, which I'm not really qualified to discuss too much about, but I like to kind of steal stuff from the city treasurer's office and run down the hallway. So just to let you know, this dictates, our valuation dictates our debt limit, which means how much we can borrow in bonding when we do development. So when a developer buys land, comes to the city and says, please put the streets, the sidewalks, the sewer, the water in for me and assess them to the properties, we did sell those bonds in the private market, and then large dollar individuals buy those bonds, but our limit of how much we can buy and borrow is dictated by the valuation. So every year we can technically borrow more. It's basically our FICO score goes up every year because we're growing so much, which is an interesting concept to consider. But we just continue to see more and more valuation added. At that point, I would just consider it done, and if you have any questions, be planning commissioner comments.
We were going to get a walkway over 54.
You didn't see it? Put it in.
Unless you're going to ride a bicycle around that thing.
Yeah. It's a little bit difficult, but I am working with the state to see if we can consider, again, a pedestrian bicycle bridge, so I would say a bicyclist pedestrian bridge, specifically for bicycles and pedestrians, but it's a difficult one because the cost is around 10 million, so we still have to see how we would fund that. It's either gonna be grants, unless council wants to consider a $10 million bond, which I don't know how they would consider that cash flow, because how do you pay those bonds back is really important, obviously, but right now we're just looking at grants to see what kind of grant opportunities are available if we could do a pedestrian bridge. So I haven't given up on that possibility. Obviously, the big elephant in the room is going to be KDOT. You can't just build something across 54 without KDOT's approval. But we think we found a way. But whether or not we get the funding for that way remains to be seen. But I'll keep on it.
Okay.
You have a new fogging machine for next year?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we bought one. So a mosquito fogging machine. I believe Public Works bought that already. Yeah, obviously the temperature's been, it's warm now, but the temperature's dropping, so mosquitoes are going away. But I believe that will bust out in the spring of next year or summer, whenever the mosquitoes get bad again. But yeah, I'll leave that up to them when they want to.
Whenever it rains.
Whenever they want to invoke the fogging machine again. You guys will hear it driving around the neighborhoods beeping.
Just to make sure it got brutal a little bit this year.
You're up for the final say.
Motion.
I make the motion we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very
Wait
much.
all night to hit that.